For the first time in the world, at the Keys Tribal University, the tribal students are being imparted education in the tribal language like Ho, Mundari, Bhumija, Kui, Sohra, Alchiki, that is Santali language. This is being imparted in the Keys University. So if this language should be included in the 8th schedule of the Constitution. Our famous Gangadhar Meher, the great poet of Odisha, has been saying that those who don't respect their mother tongue or motherland, then those persons should not be considered as literate or men of wisdom. So therefore, I urge the central government to include Kosali, Ho, Mundari, Kui, Sohra, Bhumija languages in the 8th schedule of Indian Constitution. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chairman, sir. Sir, I am raising an issue of grave concern, the plight of the Tamil Nadu fishermen. Sir, even myself has raised the same issue for the past more than 2 decades in the same house. Whichever government may be in place, but no solution so far. It's an ongoing, uninterrupted incident that happened in the Park Strait. The Tamil Nadu fishermen from Rameswaram, Vedaranyam, Karaikal, Pudukkottai, when they go into the Park Strait for fishing, they don't know any other livelihood. They live only upon that, and they also help the country in many ways. Whereas when they inadvertently cross an invisible international border line, the Sri Lankan Navy catch them, treat them very badly, torture them, assault them, and detain them in prison, sir. It is totally unacceptable. And the boats are also detained there. After some time, the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu writes repeatedly letters to the Union government, and the External Affairs Minister also takes an initiative, but every time some are released, some are detained. Yesterday also some have been released, but still some are detained. Hundreds of boats are there, so that livelihood is totally at stake. Sir, we have to find a final solution to this. We cannot redraw the international boundary line. And moreover, the fishermen are not deliberately doing it. They are all very poor people, but they fight with the tides of the sea, but not with the tides of the life, and also not able to resist the atrocities of the Sri Lankan Navy. Either the Union government should prevail upon the Sri Lankan government to stop these atrocities with a strong voice, or the only solution is that retrieval of Kachativu, sir. Sir, this issue has to be resolved at the earliest because the people are very much agitated. So many strikes are going, protests are going. We are not able to console them. Every time it happens, and the way they treat is totally inhuman. And one incident I will tell that some people who have been detained, after 15 days, 2 envoys from our Indian embassy has intervened, and after that some toiletries were given, some towels and soap. Till then they were in such a pathetic and pitiable condition, and they are treated so brutally and inhuman manner. Sir, they are all Tamil Nadu fishermen, they are Indian citizens. So the government has to look into that issue, not as a state issue or very lightly, find a solution to end it. And I suggest, sir, on behalf of the people of Tamil Nadu, on behalf of the Tamil Nadu government and our Chief Minister, Mr. M.K. Stalin, that try to retrieve the Kachativu. That would be a solution to this issue. Thank you very much, sir.
Srimati Dharmashila Gupta ji.
धन्यवाद माननीय सभा.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman, sir. Sir, I would like to have attention of the government towards my very serious and important issue. This is linguistic and cultural in nature, sir. And Honorable Chairman, sir, this pertains to Maithili language, sir. Maithili language is not only about Mithilanchal of Bihar state, sir. This is one of the ancient languages of India. It is literary in nature. It is very old language. It has its own unique culture, and it has a very robust literary tradition in its own type, sir. The thinking process of Maithili language is also ancient, sir. The great poet Vidyapati, who wrote in Tiruhuti alphabet. Then, sir, we have Maithili language tradition in our folk culture. It has a clear classical nature, sir. Maithili language should be considered as a classical language, And sir, Maithili language has roots in Sanskrit, Prakrit, Apabhransh, and sir, it is scientifically establishable that this relation is there. Sir, the grammar of Maithili language is also having one long-term history, and sir, this language should be considered as being given the status of classical language, sir. Sanskrit, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, and Odia languages are given classical status. In the same tune, sir, I urge upon the government that Maithili also qualifies to this status. It is worthy of that, and Maithili language should also be given status of classical language. Then, sir, if that is done, not only the literature of Maithili language will find encouragement, that will be conserved more effectively, but sir, the folk culture and the social ethos of Mithilanchal, Bihar will also find recognition internationally. So, sir, I urge upon the government with all humbleness that Maithili language should be given classical status considering its historicity, and this language has all the peculiarities which qualifies it as one classical language. Sir, this should be done at the earliest, and this initiative should be taken, sir. Thank you.
Syed Nasir Hussain ji.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Chairman, I wish to draw the attention of this House to the financial crisis faced by the Gram Panchayats in Karnataka due to the non-release of central funds under the 15th Finance Commission. The grants made by the Finance Commission are not discretionary, sir. These are constitutionally mandated devolutions meant to strengthen local self-government and ensure predictable and transparent financial support to Panchayat Raj institutions. 2,133 crores meant for nearly 6,000 Gram Panchayats in Karnataka is still pending, sir. Even the first installment of Rupees 1,092 crores has not been released, though the state has fulfilled all the procedural requirements. The continued withholding of the funds is both unjustified and detrimental to rural governance, sir. Because of the non-release of funds, panchayats are unable to pay salaries of essential staff, including sanitation workers and local administrative personnel. Routine maintenance of drinking water systems, drainage, sanitation and street lighting has been disrupted. Several panchayats have no operational funds left in their accounts to meet even basic expenses. Panchayats are constitutional institutions under Part 9 of the Constitution of India. Financial devolution to them is an obligation rooted in the principles of decentralization and cooperative federalism. When funds meant for panchayats are delayed, it is the farmer waiting for irrigation repairs who suffers. It is the rural household dependent on the drinking water supply that suffers. It is the poor, women, elderly and marginalized communities who bear the brunt of such administrative paralysis. The 15th Finance Commission was specifically tasked with strengthening local bodies and ensuring that Gram Panchayats have resources to deliver essential services. Also for Karnataka, 1,066 crores are due to Karnataka under Manrega scheme and 6,976 crores under Jal Jeevan Mission scheme. Therefore, sir, I urge the government to immediately release the pending 10,175 crores due to Karnataka's Gram Panchayats under the 15th Finance Commission and other schemes, so that the Gram Panchayats can resume the basic constitutional functions without further disruption. The people of Karnataka should not be made to bear the cost of administrative delay, and the centre must act without any further hesitation. I once again request the government to look into the matter and do the needful at the earliest. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Ajit Madhav Rao Kopchade ji.
धन्यवाद सभापति.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman, sir. My subject today is very serious. It is very sensitive issue, sir. And, sir, it is about social nobility as well. It is also about gender equality, and it also pertains to security and safety of marginalized classes.
गंभीर और चिंता
So today, sir, it has become a serious issue in the country for increasing the potency without doctor's consultation. They are openly sold in the market, and it is posing a threat before the public safety and also against the social order. It is creating a problem for everything. The psychologist and on the point of view of the doctor's perspective, it is being given, and it is posing a severe threat for the patients and for the common citizens of the country. Sir, it is having many ill effects on the health, and because of the lack of information, these drugs are being misused, and it is leading to uncontrolled sexual urge, and it has come to the notice, and it is having a bad impact on the women and also on transgenders. It is also having bad effect on the society because of the lack of the information. Such medicines are being used. Many incidents are not even reported. Haryana government has taken a step against the clinics, and it has taken serious action, and it proves that this problem is a serious problem. As per the media report, it has also come to the notice that Supreme Court has made it very clear that these medicines are not under NDPS Act, and it is creating a vacuum, and anti-social elements are misusing it. There are some countries which are of the opinion that potency enhancing drugs, they are not only a threat to the public health but also against social order, and therefore such elements which are engaged in these things, they are declared anti-social elements. Therefore, sir, I would like to urge the government that all the state government should be directed to control the selling of such medicines, and central advisory should be issued in this regard, and these potency enhancing drugs, they should only be sold on the prescription of the doctors. These things should be made very clear, and unauthorized medical stores should not be permitted to such medicines, and even online portals should not be permitted to sell drugs. Action should be taken against them if they are engaged in these things, because this is a very serious matter, and also against the transgender community and against the weaker sections of the society. It is posing a serious threat.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Chunav will.
Sir, this is the accident-prone area in Jammu Kashmir, and there are 3 districts: Kishtwar, Doda, and Ramgarh. The terrain of these areas is quite difficult, and it is also witnessing many road accidents, and many people have lost their lives. And the roads are constructed in these areas are not good, and they are not being maintained, and I think it is therefore necessary to protect them. And therefore, I am raising this issue, and I would like to request the authority that it should release a special package for these districts so that people can be protected and their lives are saved. Besides, National Highway, the works is going on, but there are 2 tunnels, Shirpura Vairu Tunnel, that have yet to be started, and I would like to request the concerning ministry that it should start the work as soon as possible so that the works can be completed on time. Dashan Madwa Warwan, sir, this is hilly areas, and they are completely covered into ice for at least 5 months, and the passes are completely closed, and they have no communication at all with the world outside. Therefore, I would like to say an appeal to the concerning ministry that there should be 2 tunnels constructed. Marwa Sigdi, that I mentioned, these 2 tunnels, if they are constructed, it will be very good. And therefore, the commission is going on and people have no difficulty at all. and Machel Gulabgarh Road. This one road is also quite important. It connects with the Leh Kargil and it can be constructed. And if it's done so, the Leh Kargil journey will be very easy and people will not be having any difficulty and it will be a great success story. And therefore, the work should start as soon as possible. One more thing I would like to say that one road in Doda district that will be connecting with Kashmir, I think it is also very important if the work starts as soon as possible. I think and I do believe that the center Doda will be completely connected with Kashmir. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Mahathir Hisamji.
Thank you very much, sir, for the opportunity. I stand before you for the long pending demand for Kerala regarding All India Institute of Medical Sciences, sir. So Kerala, in one voice, from the government of Kerala to the opposition, to all the MPs, to all the MLAs, to all the 14 districts, 941 panchayats, 67 municipalities, 6 corporations, together in one voice, Kerala has been demanding for an All India Institute of Medical Sciences. So Kerala, with the high density of population, with aging population, with the high spread of non-communicable diseases, Kerala deserves an All India Medical Institute, sir. And also, sir, with the high-end technology limited, with the medical research facility being limited, with the new latest innovation being limited, Kerala ought to have been given AIIMS, sir. With lot of expectations, we waited for AIIMS, sir. But we were given AMA, sir. Sir, Honorable J.P. Nadda ji is here. Honorable Union Minister from Kerala, George Kurian sir is here. Sir, Honorable Union Minister Suresh Gopi ji was here till now, till the last 0 hour. This AIIMS issue, even he couldn't emotionally take it. That's why he has left the house, sir. Because that was his also long pending demand which the government has not considered. Sir, Kerala, if there are over 22 AIIMS in India, sir. Delhi has AIIMS. Uttar Pradesh has 2 AIIMS, Madhya Pradesh has AIIMS, Orissa has AIIMS, Jharkhand has AIIMS, Chhattisgarh has AIIMS. That list goes on and on and on and on, sir. Kerala is also part of India, sir. Yes. Kerala is part of India. We are very much part of India. So AIIMS, something like AIIMS, when we are asking Keralam Pradikshitadu.
Kerala expected that an All India Institute of Sale. Those who present here, we requested for the AIIMS. They just gave us a tortoise. Sir.
AIIMS. How Kerala can be deprived of AIIMS, sir? What is it that we have done everything, whatever is required? How can a state be more united and make a demand like making a demand for an AIIMS? So we request, I wholeheartedly request from the bottom of my heart to Honorable Union Minister J.P. Nadda ji to have, and also the government, to provide an AIIMS, a world-class facility for Kerala by establishing an AIIMS in the interest of people of Kerala, sir. Jai Hind.
Very good. Shriman Samirul Islam.
धन्यवाद चेयरमैन.
Thank you, Chairman, sir. At last, I have got an opportunity to highlight the issue of the migrant workers of Bengal in this August House. I am astonished that the issue concerning the migrant workers of West Bengal, I have spoken about it many times before. Although there have been multiple requests to the government, Union government, from the government of West Bengal regarding the harassment they are facing, but the harassment has not reduced. It is increasing day by day. What is their crime? Is speaking Bengali a crime? From Delhi to Odisha, people are being harassed for speaking Bengali. They are being termed Bangladeshi and being sent to detention. Mr. Samik Bhattacharya, the people of Bengal are watching. When I am trying to talk about the issue of people of Bengal, but you are trying to sabotage it, the people of Bengal will give you a befitting response. Sir, is it a crime to speak in Bengali? Why people are being sent to detention camp for speaking Bengali? and many people have been sent to Bangladesh also, and they have not been returned. Sir, I would like to mention the instance of Sonali Khatun, who is a pregnant lady who had submitted her documents, property documents dating back pre-independence era, and she had been sent to Bangladesh. And so many people are still stranded in Bangladesh. And I request the Parliament to form a committee to look into this matter. And you will find so many instances who are Indian citizens languishing in Bangladesh. Sir, many people in and around Delhi speak in the language that is spoken in Pakistan. So are they Pakistani, sir? Sir, if I search in Google, we will get so many links which are showing that how these migrant workers are being harassed for just speaking Bengali. Our Honorable Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has constructed a migrant welfare board. We have searched, we have found that 30 lakh people from West Bengal work outside. But in Bengal, 1.5 crore people from other states are working. There have been no instances where those people have been harassed in Bengal. Can you show me one instance where the people from outside Bengal has been harassed in Bengal? Has anybody given any effort to build this country? It is the migrant workers who have given their blood and sweat to build this country. The house we reside in, they have been created by these workers only. And why these Bengali speaking migrant workers are being harassed like this?
Jai Jagannath.
Thank you, Chairman sir, for giving me the opportunity to draw your kind attention on the matter of public importance and urgency concerning the safety and security of Sri Jagannath Temple, Puri, one of the most revered religious institutions in the country and a grave threat to me as a sitting MP, sir. Sir, the physical infrastructure and security arrangements in and around the Sri Jagannath Temple are in a poor condition, raising serious concerns about the safety and security of lakhs of devotees comes to Puri, sir. Despite the temple's immense religious, cultural and national importance, structural decay, inadequate crowd management systems and security lapses persist. Sir, I also place on record that a direct threat to my life as a member of Parliament Rajya Sabha has been made openly on a public social media platform. This has caused deep concern not only for my personal safety but also for the dignity and security of public representatives, sir. Sir, in this connection, one person has already been arrested by the police, establishing the seriousness of this threat, sir. Sir, I would also like to bring to the notice of this august house that such threatening and provocative messages are being repeatedly written on public walls as well, further aggravating fear and insecurity among the devotees and the general public, sir. Sir, such incidents highlight the growing security risks faced by public representatives and the urgent need for strong safety arrangements, sir, especially in sensitive high footfall religious locations like Puri, sir. I urge the government to immediately intervene, review and strengthen the security and safety infrastructure of Sri Jagannath Temple, Puri through deployment of paramilitary forces from the center, including structural safety audit and modern crowd control mechanisms, sir. Ensure adequate protection for public representatives facing credible threats with strict monitoring of social media based threats, sir. Coordinate with the state government of Odisha to implement a comprehensive long-term security and conservation plan for the temple. Sir, the safety of devotees, the sanctity of Sri Jagannath Temple and the security of elected representatives must be treated as a matter of the highest national priority. Thank you. Jai Jagannath, sir. Bande Utkal Janani.
Kanad Purkayasta.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman, sir. At the very outset, I would like to place on record my sincere gratitude to the Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Minister for Railways for their visionary leadership and sustained efforts in strengthening, upgrading and expanding railway infrastructure and connectivity across northeastern region. Honorable Chairman, sir, I rise today to draw an urgent attention of this august House and the Honourable Minister for Railways to an extremely important issue concerning railway administration and operational efficacy in the northeastern region of our country, particularly the southern Assam and adjoining areas. Sir, a full-fledged railway division was established at Lamding under the Northeast Frontier Railway on 1st May 1969, initially covering a limited route between Lamding and Badarpur. With the passage of time, several additional meter gauge sections were added, substantially increasing the jurisdiction and workload of the Lamding division. Sir, by the end of 2014, all meter gauge tracks under the Lamding division were converted into the broad gauge, which significantly enhanced traffic potential as well as operational responsibility. Thereafter, several new broad gauge sections have been commissioned, further broadening the Lamding division. Honourable Chairman, sir, I would also like to highlight the proposal for a trans-Asian railway network, which is expected to become operational in the near future. This will further increase international freight and passenger traffic through the southern Assam and adjoining areas, placing enormous pressure on the existing divisional setup. Sir, moreover, this section is frequently disrupted during the monsoon season due to landslide and flooding, causing severe inconvenience to passengers and the serious logistical challenges for the railways. Sir, it is pertinent to mention that, recognizing this necessity, the Railway Board had issued a notification in 2012 for the establishment of new railway division at Silchar and Jammu. While I sincerely appreciate that the Jammu division has finally become operational in January 2025, but till date, in spite of availability of suitable lands, the establishment of proposed Silchar railway division is yet to be done. Sir, Silchar is a major urban center of southern Assam, equipped with all essential civic amenities, including educational institutions, medical facilities, air connectivity and administrative infrastructure. Moreover, the upcoming Lanka-Silchar railway line will intersect the Arunachal Infra railway line at Dudpatil near Silchar, where the demand for an additional railway station has already been raised. This makes Dudpatil a strategically ideal location for establishing a new railway division. Therefore, Honourable Chairman, sir, I humbly urge the Honourable
India alone.
No, I am not going to allow anybody to talk on 267. The ruling has been already given. Please sit. No 267, please. Please take your seat. Please take your seat. You have no right to question the chair. No right to question the chair.
Demands urgent and collective action. But let us
If you don't want to understand 267, then I cannot help you.
In the challenge lies a tremendous opportunity. If managed wisely, plastic waste can be transformed into a resource that not only safeguards our environment but also yields significant revenue. In order to tackle the problem, we must strengthen enforcement of existing bans on single-use plastics and encourage alternatives such as biodegradable packaging. Investment in modern recycling infrastructure is essential. Segregation at stores, efficient collection systems, and advanced recycling plants must be given importance. Public awareness campaigns should be intensified so that every citizen understands their role in reducing plastic consumption and ensuring proper disposal. Further, we should explore and turning waste into wealth through plastic waste or repurposed into construction materials, road surface